If you love America, you're among friends here.
You're tuned in to Rebooting Liberty.
Have you ever wanted to have your own radio show? Rebooting Liberty Radio Network currently has openings for live programs. For a very small fee, we will create a show intro, bumper music, and provide technical production for your hour-long show. Email producer@rebootingliberty.com for details. You can find us at live.rebootingliberty.com.
Welcome to Commonsense Coalition Talk Radio, where you'll find straight talk from people with good old common sense.
I trust your opinion.
And now, for your host, she's putting sense back into nonsense.
Absolute insanity.
Well, you can hear me on the radio. You want to turn me on, turn on your stereo. You can sing along by the playing our song. Now you done me wrong, baby, crank it up.
And now, your host, Beth Ann.
And I welcome you today to CSC Talk Radio. It's my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to be here with you today. We're going to have kind of a twofold show. I've got two guests. We've done that before. I've had two guests on before. I've had them at the same time. I've had them on at different times. And this time we're going to have them on different times. But we're going to talk about similar topics. And I want to talk about the unrest that's been going on, the racial unrest, as well as some other things that have been going on across this great nation. And I have with me right now Martin Baker. And Martin, how are you today?
I'm doing. Beth, how are you?
I'm doing great. Now, Martin is from Missouri. In fact, he's from the St. Louis area, aren't you, Martin?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And I want you to kind of introduce yourself. I know that's kind of unusual. And tell exactly what happened during the Ferguson riots while you were there.
Well, Ferguson was part of the 1st Congressional District, of which I was a former congressional candidate for. And during the 2014 unrest in Ferguson, a lot of issues came up, and I was an advocate for essentially just for due process to see how the situation came out after the investigation. And a lot of my peers were not too happy about that. In fact, it got to the point where I was blasted all over the internet. My children received death threats. I received death threats. And even to this day, some people look at me as a sellout, called me an Uncle Tom, called me everything but a child of God, essentially.
Well, there is a lot of prejudices. You're not allowed to disagree with anyone, you know.
Well, I guess that's we call that phrase abandoning the plantation groupthink. And I guess because I abandoned it, some people were not too happy about my defection, for lack of a better phrase.
Okay. So during the Ferguson riots, you took the wrong side. You actually took the side of the officer. Is that correct?
I took the side of common sense. I would call it that. It wasn't I was necessarily an advocate for the officer. I was an advocate for seeing how the process goes out through the legal channels.
Exactly.
Just as much as I believe in the right of due process for the officer, I believe in due process for the right of the family. And I spoke to both sides of that. I spoke with police officers. I spoke with Michael Brown's family. In fact, I stood on a stage with Reverend Sharpton and spoke briefly with Reverend Sharpton as well, pleading with him to help advocate the fact of due process.
But he wouldn't do that, would he?
No, he would not. It is not a financial windfall for Reverend Sharpton to speak common sense and to talk about things such as common sense. That doesn't make...
Let me ask a question. Was that an obvious observation when you talked to him about that it was not going to be to his advantage, so to speak?
Well, here's the thing with Reverend Sharpton, and from a religious standpoint, I have respect for any person of the cloth if their objective and their goal is to advocate the principles that Christ himself would advocate if he were here on the earth himself. However, when I see that a man or a woman of the cloth is attempting to do things not just for spiritual gratification, but for financial means, or they means to incite principles and policies that Christ would not, then I have an issue with that. Reverend Sharpton has always had an agenda of his own beyond trying to do spiritual growth, and that is something that I will always agree to disagree with him on.
Well, I think that we need to be looking at the problems. There are problems. We can't deny that there are not problems. But I think we need to be looking into the issues and trying to solve these problems. And I don't think just throwing money at it. I don't think just protesting and just rioting in the streets and I don't think those are the answers. Not that you can't do those and get things done. But what happened in Ferguson exploded, and it was unnecessary.
I absolutely agree with you on that. And you're right. All you're going to do is when you throw problems at an issue, and especially when it's whether it's state money or federal money, all you're going to end up doing is it's basically the old sinking pit strategy. You will continue to just throw that money out there. Let's say you throw $10 million now. Is it okay to throw $15 million later and then $20 million? All you're doing is you're continuing to fund a problem and you're making the problem bigger, which is the nature of what government does. Is the more you feed it, the bigger the problem gets. Well, it doesn't solve anything.
And there are reasons to not trust everything. That's obvious. I don't trust a lot of things the government does and says and the mainstream media. But when you protest, as they have been lately, and how they did that in Ferguson, and you absolutely refuse to believe what is obvious. I mean, they went through several different investigators. They went through several different autopsies, and the evidence came back the same each time. And it was that Michael Brown was in the wrong, and that he had fought the officer, and that it was not a hands-up, don't-shoot situation as it is still being claimed to be. I think when we protest like that, and we refuse to see what actually happened, we refuse the truth, then we create more prejudices. We create more problems. We don't stifle it. We don't win anything for our cause. We create more problems.
What we have is we have the same thing that I've said, and even to the situation that we have going on today in my former school at the University of Missouri in Columbia, is that when you allow narrative to define the argument instead of facts and the process, then you're always going to. When you get very overly emotional, and you're correct. Let's be very clear. Do racial issues happen? Absolutely. Are there better ways to solve them? Absolutely. But instead of just trying to find the facts of the matter of how it happened, why it happened, and not just that, but also finding common sense solutions to prevent it, to make sure that we can curtail it. Those are the things that we do, as opposed to just saying, let's just decry the system. If a person gets shot, let's just decry the police. Let's not find out why that police officer had to take that shot. Or let's even go so far as let's just blame the gun itself so that we can try to get gun control advocates. Whatever the case may be, if we're not looking at the root cause of the issue to try to find solutions to it, then all we're doing is we're adding to the problem. That's all we will continue to do.
Well, and I think that is true. But I think, and I know that I'm maybe in a position where I live and who I am and my age that, I'm a little bit removed from some things. I don't witness it very often. But I thought that we had come a long way, baby, so to speak, in not that we're ever going to get rid of it, because there's always going to be people that are prejudiced. There's always going to be meanness. There's always going to be evil in the world. We can't seem to get rid of that, not until the return of the Lord. We can't get rid of that. But I thought we had really come a long way. And it seems like now the truck has been backed up. And I'm looking back at the rioting that went on that destroyed Detroit back when I was a kid. And I'm looking at the things that went on then. And and I'm just really worried about the unrest in our nation, because we should be one regardless of our color, regardless of our occupation, regardless of where we live. Americans should be non-hyphenated. No hyphens allowed. I'm French, Irish, Scotch, Indian, English, and German. We'd run out of hyphens if I used them all. We're going into a break. I want you to hang on, Martin, because I want to talk about MU just a little bit, since you actually came from there. We're going into a break. Your calls are welcome at 877-895-5410, and we will be right back.
It's so good to be taking it easy. Why would I ever leave? 'Cause I know I got some good friends that live down the street. Got a good-looking woman with her own town. Live in a small town where it feels like home. I got everything I need and nothing that I don't own.
Are you a David? There are wolves, sheep, and sheepdog, and then there are shepherds. Just as young King David faced the impossible battle with the feared giant Goliath, we face giants today as well. Do we run or do we stand our ground? Our federal government is the epitome of corruption. Abuse of power and deceit have enslaved we the people. Property rights are non-existent. Gun owners are treated as terrorists. Citizens are plundered and reaped of rights and liberties. Is there a solution? Yes. You are the solution. You, the patriotic, the local peace officer, you, the elected official, the county sheriff. You must stand with faith, humility, and the strength of a warrior, as young David did. You are the solution. Order the book, Are You a David by Sheriff Mack. Go to csctalkradio.com or send $15 to P.O. Box 73, California, Missouri 65018. Be a shepherd in your community. csctalkradio.com.
BioAg, working with nature naturally. Murray Bast has been my guest several times here on CSC Talk Radio. You know now he's devoted to helping farmers and ranchers. Murray is my common sense voice for improved agriculture. Farmers and ranchers are vital to any nation. Our food and how it's grown is more than just planting a seed, slopping the hogs, or feeding the cows. There's a science to it, and it takes a special kind of people. Since 1982, their mission has been to produce and supply products and services that warrant and support true sustainable agriculture. BioAg is a major supplier of natural products and services for livestock and crop production. Become a BioAg distributor. BioAg consultants and distributors are devoted. BioAg.com has all the products you need to improve your bottom line as well as improve your products and health. Visit bio-ag.com or call them at 1-800-363-5278. That's 1-800-363-5278. Gold and silver have been the foundation of wealth for individuals and nations the world over. The history of man is packed with coins, jewelry, and artifacts that have spoken to the intrinsic value esteemed in gold and silver due to their rarity, durability, and usefulness. I'm proud to call Melody Cedarstrom a friend and honored Discount Gold and Silver Trading is a loyal sponsor of CSC Talk Radio, a Christian company founded on the principles of truth and honesty. Melody provides quality products, quality service, and competitive pricing. Let Melody's over 20 years of experience in gold and silver trading be your investment guide. From precious metals purchases to precious metals IRA. Whether you want to buy or sell, Melody and her team at Discount Gold and Silver will assist you and make sure you get the best deals possible. Call Melody and tell her thank you for sponsoring CSC Talk Radio, and then let her know you want her to be your gold and silver dealer. Visit Melody online at dgscoins.com or just give her a call at 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188. And we have returned to listening to CSC Talk Radio. This is Beth Ann. I'm visiting today right now with Martin Baker, and later on in the show we're going to have Kevin Jackson on. Martin, now we didn't mention in the first part of the show, you didn't mention that through all this you lost your job.
Yes, I did. We had it to the point that there were a lot of folks that were coming to the job that I was at and pointing out, oh, you're that Ferguson guy, and it caused a major distraction with things. And so that happened. But it just shows the narrative of things that happen with all of that.
Okay. Now let's move to MU. I have an article here, and and it's coming from the Daily Signal, which is part of the Heritage Foundation. I just got it today, and it says that these are tyrannical students. What a former Harvard professor thinks of the college protests, and he gives his opinion in a lot of this. And what I saw, if the things that they were claiming were true, I think they have every right to be concerned. But some of them ended up that they were not true, or they had happened so long ago. That doesn't make it right. But what concerned me through their protests, excuse me, Martin, what concerned me through the protests and through their demands was their demands were just as prejudiced as the things that they were claiming against them.
Absolutely. And here's what you have. Again, as we said earlier, this is what happens when you, firstly, when you allow narrative to define the argument. Everybody's going to, racism is a hot button issue. It is something that it is the proverbial elephant in the room. Everybody knows it's there, but nobody wants to talk about it. So if you can get enough people into a lather to quote unquote talk about it, then you acknowledge that it's there, but they will define the narrative of how it will be discussed and how it will be talked about. During my nearly 3 years on the campus of the University of Missouri, I never, as a student of color, I never experienced any of the racism that is purported to be so rampant on the campus. Never once did I. And it very much dismayed me as an alumna of that great institution to see on our campus basically where you have so many people that suddenly are screaming up about this. And the key thing of this is that when they put essentially the head of the chancellor, the president, and essentially the head coach of the university, when they sacrificed them on the altar of their, for lack of a better phrase, their public opinion, it just showed the narrative of that this is our society of the soccer trophy kids. These are kids who just said, just because we showed up, we get a trophy. And now we demand that you do the same thing. And I guess they're now claiming the president, the chancellor, and the head coach as their trophies now. And they base it all, most of it, off of a lie. They base it all off of just the emotion of the moment. Like example, when you had the president of the student body president claiming that the Klan was there on campus, and a few of his friends were also saying, yes, we saw them too. My grandma, who just passed away 2 months ago, would call that co-signing a lie. And when you had all those folks co-signing that same lie, you built it up bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, of course, that suddenly was proven out to be that was incorrect as well. And, you're consistently having that. And we're seeing coming out now more and more is that you're getting students of color who are getting arrested who are making these false flag threats saying, oh, well, this was somebody who was white saying these threats. And then they're doing simple investigating and finding out that it was somebody else who created that who wasn't white.
Well,
that's a sad thing.
It's a mob mentality. And once you give into that, I see no problem with. In fact, I would encourage investigating the claims that were made. But I don't think anybody should be fired until they've done the investigating.
Absolutely.
Now, and I don't believe that. I think once you give them whatever they want, just because it is the elephant in the room, as you put it, and you don't investigate, you just give them then they become bullies. So now we see it firing up across the nation on all kinds of campuses with demands that are ridiculous in my opinion. Now, maybe my opinion doesn't count, but in my opinion, the mom here, she thinks it's ridiculous. You're asking for something that isn't right. And it goes in contrary to what you're actually protesting about. It goes completely in contrary to that. And I would have to tell my children, life isn't fair, and it isn't. And there are mean people, and you have to learn to deal with them. That doesn't mean you should always tolerate and put up with it, but you do have to learn to deal with a certain amount of it, unfortunately. And, it's just something that I'm very concerned about because I consider America out there in my listening land, every bit of them. I think everyone is family. Everybody is my brother, my sister, my neighbor. It's just I don't like the unrest, and I don't like them fighting, just like I didn't like my kids fighting when they were growing up. And that's what I see, and it disturbs me greatly.
I absolutely agree with you. My grandma, again, and I love making references to my grandma, she always told us that a stranger is a friend you just haven't met yet. I look at our nation as a gift from God. I absolutely and I do not ever stray away from that. I believe that we are one of the most diverse nations that was ever created. I believe that the strength of this nation comes from the diverse nature of the people that we have. Our heritage matters not to me. The heritage of where you came from doesn't matter to me. What matters to me now is that we are all Americans, and we are all here on this. To use the old phrase from the Reagan-Bush days, we are still that shining city on the hill.
We should be.
Does that make us does that make us a perfect nation?
Never.
Absolutely not.
Well, we can't be perfect because we got people in it.
Because yes, we are a perfect society but we are a perfect society with imperfect people.
Absolutely.
And that's what we always will be. And
what you're saying, I was going to say, what you're saying is absolutely true, and I think that's part of the problem with all the immigrants and that topic, because I don't see them as wanting to become one of us. Not, we are diverse people. We have a little, like I said, I am the melting pot. I'm French, Irish, Scotch, Indian, English, and German. And, I feel like I am the melting pot, and my family has been here since day one, just about. But I don't see the immigrants that are coming in now, whether they're legal or illegal, actually wanting to become America. And that bothers me.
Well, what you had I remember an old phrase from Theodore Roosevelt when he was president. He advocated that not only when we allow immigrants to come into the nation, but not only we must teach them our language, we must assimilate them into our society. They must learn English. They must basically renounce their loyalty, their allegiance to their nation of origin, and become part of American society, and we will gladly embrace them as Americans. We won't embrace them as Hispanic Americans. We won't embrace them as African Americans. We won't embrace them as German Americans, French Americans, whatever the case may be. We will embrace them as Americans. But there is a process to do so. And we have gotten so much to the point where we have to be politically sensitive. We have to be true stewards and advocates of the world or the global stage that we forget about the principles of, and I will say it, I will continue to say it, of American exceptionalism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. America is exceptional. And when we see what we've seen here in the last several years here, with the unrest and now the rioting and the claims that are being made, it disturbs me as an American because I consider them all to be family. And I don't want the family to be fighting. I want us to be can't we all just get along?
Right.
And, I can sympathize with their demands until their demands become the same as what they're complaining about. And then I have to pull the mom card and say, you know what, that's not going to happen. And I think we need to stand up to them.
We absolutely have to. Like, for example, when the demand, and I saw some of their demands, like, for example, is that they wanted 10%. By 2017, they want 10% of the faculty and employees of the university to be persons of color. So where's the money going to come from that? Where are the jobs going to come from that?
Well, and they were ignoring all kinds of others. They were ignoring the Asians. They were ignoring the Hispanics. They were ignoring everyone else. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, Beth, because the fact that this is a narrative. The narrative said that the blacks are the persons of color are the ones that are oppressed. And when you get into a mentality that you're oppressed, you're going to continue to think that. And even if you get what you wanted, even if somehow, some way, the Missouri General Assembly, which, by the way, that is the elected representatives of the people of the state of Missouri, somehow, some way, found the money to cave into that demand, what's going to be the next demand?
Because on the campuses, our universities are about money now. We're out of time with you. I'm going to have to let you go. I know you got to get to work. I appreciate you taking the time with us, Martin. Thank you so much. We're going into a break, and we will be right back.
Aren't you glad the so-called fairness doctrine doesn't apply here?
You're tuned in to Rebooting Liberty.
And we have returned. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we were going to talk about the unrest that's going on across this nation. I had Martin Baker on in the first part of the show, and I'm going to have Kevin Jackson on. Now, you've seen Kevin Jackson on Fox. You've heard him on other talk shows, and he has his own talk show. Kevin, welcome to CSC Talk Radio.
Good to talk to you, Beth.
I appreciate it. We were talking a little bit in the first part of the segment, in the first part of the show, with Martin Baker, who is also from St. Louis area and was there during the Ferguson riots, and he's also a MU grad. And so he was concerned about what's going on at MU. And I wanted to talk a little bit with you today about the unrest across this nation and get your opinion and you know, see how you think things set up. Now, I wanted to tell you, you and I have something in common. I read that you have 4 sons. Is that correct?
I do.
I have 5. I'm one up on you, buddy.
And you'll stay one up on me.
Well, I didn't do it on purpose, but
Okay.
I've got mine are all raised, so I'm probably one up on you there too. So you can live to you survive that, and I will be praying for your wife. But anyway. The things that went on in Ferguson. I actually have a cousin that lived in Ferguson, raised her family in Ferguson. She had 5 children, and she raised them all there in Ferguson. And we were kidding her during the time that the rioting was going on, just to give her a hard time, because she was kind of she's getting up there in her years, and she was kind of trapped in her home. She didn't get out. We were kidding her about coming and visiting and having a family reunion, but she wouldn't let us do that. But you know, the things that are going on, the unrest, it's worse now than I've seen it in a very, very long time, if ever. And that concerns me, and I kind of think it does you too.
Well, it should concern the nation, because it would be different if there were really something going on. There's a guy, they call him a professor. He thinks of himself as an intellectual. He's the Don King, and I say that with all due respect to Don King, but he's the Don King of politics. A black rabble-rouser by the name of Michael Eric Dyson, and he calls this time Civil Rights 2.0. And I was asking the question of a caller on my show the other day. I said, what lack of civil rights do black people have? You know, are there separate water fountains? I haven't been anywhere, Beth, and seen somewhere that says blacks or whites only. And by the way, if it did say whites only, you guys would be getting the one that's the bad one. You know, you'd be drinking toilet water right now if it were left up to most of these black racists that are out there. So, you know, what is it that blacks don't have? We have equal access to everything. In fact, we have extra access. For your white sons to get into school, they have to score a 200 or plus points higher on an SAT or an ACT than my sons. Now, I'm just fortunate to have brilliant kids that scored 1500s and stuff on their SATs to begin with. But the average black kid scores a 1010, and an Asian has to score 1340 to be the equivalent. Now, I'll ask you, it doesn't matter. You can skew it that way all you want. Who are you hurting in the end? If little Edwin Wong is going to go to college, and I know he had to have a higher grade, when he graduates, you guys can, I don't care how it worked out, I'm going to hire little Edwin Wong over little Leroy Johnson. And they think they're doing black people a favor with this coddling, and it is quite the opposite. And what it's done is it's created a powder keg, a boiling pot, if you will, of emotions and things that have nothing to do with how this country is run and what the opportunities are for blacks. And that's the problem. White enablement of this coddling.
You know, and that goes along with the women's rights, too. The equality in women. Now, I'm a female, and I didn't really want, well, I did at one time. I wanted to join the military when I was younger. But I didn't really have a great desire to do it, or I had done it. But I know with the police, with the military, the women have a different set of rules. They have they don't have to do the same amount of push-ups or pull-ups. It's all different for them. And I'm thinking that's not equality. If you're going to get out there and fight the same enemy, then you ought to be the same strength and have the same abilities. The truth is, we're not exactly the same. We're not built the same. We're not exactly the same. So
well, you're right, and it's become that way where whether it's you've used great examples, women, or we're coddling based on religion now. Muslims are getting special treatment for what? But in terms of what's happening to the nation with blacks, and this mentality that's been created is it's ruined everything. It's ruined business. Businesses used to be focused on their products and delivering the best product at the best possible price. And employees were happy to have the opportunity to work at a job. And I'm not saying that these work conditions need to be looked at. You need to have good, safe, quality work conditions. But government has not only said you need to provide safety and you need to provide a place for me to essentially be able to do my job well. They say now, no, you need to give me insurance, and you also need to worry about, the well-being of my ethnicity. So you get to form these groups, the women's groups of whatever. There are hardly any men's groups within companies. You get to form the Black Employees Association. There's no White Employees Association. Well, these are cancers because a company should be focused on one thing, and that's hiring the best people. That's what America used to be built on, is bringing the best people in to serve the needs of the greater society. But we don't do that anymore. We say, no, you got to bring in a certain number of refugees, even though we know there are terrorists in the midst. It's just our humane duty to do so. No, it isn't. It's no more humane than for me to start a company that's run by my entire family and somebody come along and say, Kevin, you got to hire 3 Jews and a couple other white dudes of other ethnicities. Why?
To make it equal, man.
Just to make it, you don't have enough Jewish gay people, or you don't have enough Amish or Germans, or you know what? It's because we deal in cash, and I don't trust them. I want family. Which, by the way, I wouldn't hire my family if that was the case. I would probably hire the Amish and the Jews.
Yeah, you can get in trouble when you're doing that, when you're hiring just family.
I don't want family sometimes. But the point I'm making is, if I want it, I should build the company the way I want.
Well, if the Democrats have their way, they're going to have everybody's going to be forced. The employers are going to be forced to give employees free vacations. They got to have this. They got to have this time off. They got to have, they got to have maternity time. They've got to have, insurance. Got to have everything.
Let me put it in perspective for you and your listeners, Beth. Here's the deal. The government is a gangster, and he comes along and he says, look, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse, and you're going to give me 50% of the money you make. Now, I would say to you, I don't know what you make. I don't know I know nothing about you. But here's what I would say, Beth. If you'll give me 50% of whatever you are able to bring in, I will disappear from your life. Okay? But our government doesn't. The government says, I want 50%. And then you say, okay, fine, it seems like a lot considering you don't do anything, but okay. And then they come back and go, now listen, I want you to hire 3 black women, 2 Hispanics, and a short, fat, ugly white dude. Okay.
Well, that would be me.
and then they leave, and they come back and they go, hey, by the way, we want you to give them all health care. And you're like, dude, you get 50%. Why don't you leave me alone? And he goes, no, I'm going to run your company. And you know what they're doing? They're running corporations into the ground.
They are
And
bullies.
the same thing is about to happen in academia because of this crap that's going on at the University of Missouri and now elsewhere, because now black kids are saying, where are all the black professors? Which, by the way, I agree. If you're going to, it's funny, they're just getting around to looking at the politics of academia, what I call wackademia, when they've been completely looking at business for decades and making them submit and capitulate, but they're now getting around to colleges. And now they're saying, we want to see more black faces and brown faces in college. And the colleges are going to suffer the same fate, not because blacks and browns are not smart, Beth, but because they're going to be forced to hire people that are unqualified, and they're going to need to do it quickly in order to stop these people from burning down the colleges.
It's a slap in the face of every man, every woman, of every color, if they're going to be bypassed. And strictly because of the ethnicity instead of what you actually can do. And as I want to talk about that health care, I want to tell you right now, it is not health care. Obamacare is not health care. It's forced insurance, and it's a fine and a fee and a penalty if you don't comply. We're going into a break. Your calls are welcome at 877-895-5410. That's 877-895-5410, and we will be right back.
What every American needs to know about the Quran, a history of Islam and the United States. Bill Federer has done it again. He makes history come to life, and current events all connect that to history. Sultans conquered the 1,000-year-old Byzantine city of Constantinople. Jefferson sent Marines to stop the Muslim Barbary pirates of Algiers and Tripoli. Woodrow Wilson tried saving millions of Americans killed in Turkey. History that affects you and me today. In 2006, Keith Ellison was the first Muslim elected to the U.S. Congress. He swore on a Quran. What does this mean? Educate and activate. We shouldn't form opinion or initiate actions before we know the truth. Purchase your copy of What Every American Needs to Know About the Quran today. Send $22 to CSC Talk Radio, P.O. Box 73, California, Missouri 65018, or order on the website at csctalkradio.com. That's $22 for the history of Islam and the United States.
CSC Talk Radio's goal is to bring America home. That includes you and your business. Radio is a powerful way to brand your company and increase your profits. Find out how to join CSC Talk Radio, help educate and activate America, and grow your business at the same time. Looking for new customers? Looking to have your business reaching out from sea to shining sea? Advertise with CSC Talk Radio. Believe in your product? Let Beth Ann be your personal spokesperson to properly brand your product and company. It's simple, easy, and affordable. Grow your business, grow common sense, and together we will bring America home. To be a part of CSC Talk Radio, call 573-796-2166. That's 573-796-2166. Or send email to beth@csctalkradio.com.
Hamby Dairy Supply has gone above and beyond the call of duty for all their dairy customers. Many of you men call Hamby Dairy Supply to inquire about certain products. When all is explained, you men make the wisest of all statements. I need to ask my wife. Well, Hamby Dairy Supply female employees are wise and can help you make those decisions that just might keep you out of trouble and perhaps even make you the hero of the day. Let Hamby Dairy Supply ladies assist you in making those hard-to-decide dairy supply decisions. And women, Hamby Dairy Supply can help you too. If you need male second opinion, let the Hamby Dairy Supply men assist you. Call them now at 1-800-306-8937 or shop online at HambyDairySupply.com and let the Hamby Dairy Supply staff of wives and husbands help meet all your dairy supply needs. That's 1-800-306-8937. Hamby Dairy Supply for all your dairy supply needs.
Did you know that whether you're making a phone call, texting a friend, or checking email, you can be making a difference for CSC Talk Radio? That's right. When you sign up for wireless service from our friends at Affinity 4, not only do you receive affordable rate plans with nationwide coverage on one of America's largest wireless networks, you'll also be supporting CSC Talk Radio through Affinity 4's Give Back program. Affinity 4 Wireless offers a variety of phones from leading manufacturers, and you can choose from individual and shared plans to meet your needs. And you can keep your same phone number. Call 1-800-311-2021 today and let the Affinity 4 customer service team help you select the best plan and phone for your needs. And remember, when you sign up for any of Affinity 4's products and services, a portion of the proceeds will be donated back to CSC Talk Radio. Don't wait. Call today, 1-800-311-2021, and ask about their current wireless promotions, including a free month of service and free phone offers. That's 1-800-311-2021.
And we have returned. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio. This is Beth Ann. I'm visiting right at the moment with Kevin Jackson. Kevin, you know, we were talking about the things that are going on the campus and across the nation. And I just consider some of this to be bullying. And, we're supposed to have a no tolerance on that bullying. And they make a demand and they get just what they want. And everybody is in fear of this as much as they are, I think, of ISIS. We are afraid of things. And, the unrest in the nation and the distrust in the nation has grown under this administration. I don't want to just blame him alone, but it has grown under this administration because he has failed to lead.
Well, I think the bullying analogy is a perfect thing. These leftists always talk about the no bully campaigns, the no bossy, whatever. It's always some campaign, and at the end of the day, these are the biggest bullies on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
I want to tell you a quick story. I don't know if your audience or maybe you're aware of this, but there's a guy, they're protesting right now in Minnesota over this black guy who was killed by the cops, and there's been 100 people protesting on his behalf. Well, here's his story. I think his name is Jamar or something like that. He beats his girlfriend within an inch of her life. Paramedics show up, the EMT, to save her life. He is trying to prevent them from doing their jobs.
Wow.
So they call the cops. The cops show up, supposedly, and they've got the cam on this, that he attacks the cops, in which case they shoot him and they kill him. And there are 100 people protesting the death of this thug who beat his girlfriend to within an inch of her life and tried to prevent people from giving her the medical care to save her life. That's what we've come to in this country. That should give you and your listeners a lot of understanding of what we're dealing with. And we allow it. And because we're not selling our message. The conservative message is a great message. There's an old saying in sales: tell it, don't sell it. We don't even tell it.
No, we don't.
We don't tell. Think about how great it is to grow up with family. I mean, I just want you to, when I say that word, and the average conservative thinks about having a mother and a father, brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts, and family reunions, and going to baseball games and meeting up for, to go visit each other during the holidays and things like this. And think about everything else that these guys that the left holds near and dear, like partying until you puke and things like this. And you think about what it means when you say family and friends coming over for a barbecue. There's no better feeling in the world than that feeling of Americana and that feeling of family. And we can't sell that. And the reason is we don't tie into the emotion of it. Many black kids long for that. Coming up as a kid who lost his father, who was in prison, my mother died when I was young. I longed for family. I used to look at white families, these functional families, and go, that's what that is? Holy cow, no wonder it's white privilege. I have a meme that says white privilege is having two parents in the house, Look, that's an easy sell. You don't have to sell that. Let's go tell that story. Leftists hate that yes, we have these very good families.
And, we're in the holiday season. And when my kids were young, we would go to my mother's house, my mom and my dad, for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I would sing to them as we get just a few miles in the country here. We live in the country right here in mid-Missouri, and I would sing over the river and through the woods, and we'd take the back road where we had to go over a little creek to get to Grandma and Grandpa's, to Granny and Papa's. But my kids come now; they're all married, they all have kids. And those cousins come in that house, and they just can't wait to see each other, and they run through the house. Literally, the walls are going back and forth, They just run through the house chasing one another and playing and just getting along. And I remember when I did that when I was a kid, we went to Bonne Terre, Missouri, where my grandmother lived, and my grandfather was an electrician in the lead mines down there. I mean, I don't think we were really too privileged, but we thought we were. We had cousins, we had family, and you're right. Family, strong family, is a strong nation. And the liberals and the progressives are trying to take that away.
Well, it even goes beyond that. I mean, I'll tell you another thing that black people like. We like being able to pay our bills comfortably and not live paycheck to paycheck. And by the way, it's not just limited to blacks, but I'm just saying.
I was going to say.
We all like it, right? But poor white people like it too. But my point is, when we talk about conservative values and conservatism and the idea that you take care of yourself, you're not waiting on the government to bring your check so you can try to catch that other check you wrote. When you do things the right way and you plan for your own future and you save for your own rainy days, that's a great feeling. And we have to be able to tell people this. Look, black folks and poor people in general, but I can tell you from personal experience, we put our electricity in our kids' names and our phones in our cousins' names and all kinds of stuff because we don't live a conservative lifestyle. We've been taught to spend money before we get it. These are good, solid principles. They're built upon not just conservative values but biblical values, and they're easy to sell to a group of people who are supposed to be the most religious people on the planet.
Well, we go into the 4th of July every year, and we're celebrating independence, and we've become the most dependent nation of people that ever was. We want to depend on the government. We want to depend on those D.C. occupiers occupying offices and cutting deals. And those deals have nothing to do with a better living style for you and for me and for our family and the generations to come after that. We've lost that spirit of independence, some of them, not all of us. You and I still have it. And that's what it's all about.
The American spirit, there's a reason why they want to kill it. There's a reason why they want to kill what I call the two most feared words in politics, Tea Party, is because they've got to kill your spirit. They've got to kill your what you personify before they can actually kill you.
That's right.
And, I run a group. I'm part owner of a site called TeaPartyCommunity.com, which looks exactly like Facebook. And we're trying to move people over because you've got to have that voice, and you can't let people chase you away from your name, because to kill your name is to kill that spirit. I've given this speech a lot, but I tell people all the time, I've lived in China, I've lived in France, I've traveled to 22 countries in Africa, and I've pretty much traveled the world. I've never heard of anybody talk about another spirit. They don't talk about German spirit, Italian spirit, European spirit, Chinese spirit. They talk about one spirit, the American spirit. And people, I have African friends that have come over here that said, Kevin, I kissed the ground when I arrived in America. It was like a dream come true. That's what I believe in about this country. That's what we've got to convey to our audiences, that there is nothing better. We are the last bastion of hope in the world. And people don't have to believe me, but I've lived in enough places and traveled to others to tell you, we are it. And if you don't stand and fight for this stuff and call out nonsense when it's there, don't succumb to political correctness, let me tell you, we're gone.
We are. And you know what? What I design, and we're getting ready to go off the air, Kevin, and I sign off every day saying we've got to come together to bring America home. And I believe that absolutely. We need to come back to what our roots were, how we were founded by our founding fathers. We've come a long way from that. We really have. But we need to go back to that spirit of independence and that common sense and biblical principles and morals where we stand as a family together here in America and bring America home. Thank you, Kevin.
You're listening to Rebooting Liberty Radio Network. Compelling and entertaining talk.
Don't touch that dial.
Hey, liberals, why don't you try rooting for your own damn country for a change?